Hi, friend. Welcome back to my Artist Friend podcast. I am your host, Becky Helms, and this is a podcast where I talk to creative people about their creative lives. Sometimes we give some business advice, but generally this is like going out to lunch with your artist friend and talking shop, talking life, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Today, I'm going to be talking to Tash of Hatchling Makes. Tash specializes in unique animals, like endangered animals, animals that you don't really think about very often. We talk about a vaquita, which I didn't know what it was. We talk about cassowaries and hyraxes and all kinds of fun animals that people might not know a lot about. And the kind of conservancy effort that she makes an integral part of her business, which is really fun. She also started out very much like me. We had very different businesses at the beginning of our careers than we ended up with now. And we talk about kind of that journey through life and how things have evolved, plus how cool it is that the things that we do would make our little kid selves happy, which I love chatting about that. So without further ado, here's my artist friend, Tosh. Hi, Tosh. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, yeah.
I'm so glad. Just so the listeners know, I had a chaotic morning, and Tosh is so kind to wait for me.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Yes. So you were just talking about taking advantage of my lateness with con prep.
Yeah.
I want to know about it.
Getting ready so it's going to kick off my winter season for like events, in-person events and markets. And this year is the first year that I decided to do Comic-Cons as a small business, which has been really interesting. It's been such an interesting, I've met so many amazing people. Like we had the best time. We did a 3-day one in the summer, and then I'm doing this one in the winter. And it was just the summer one was so much fun.
That's
We had
awesome.
such a good time, and like just being able to get to meet people like in real life that I've been following for ages is just such a nice feeling. And I also attended another Comic-Con as an attendee earlier just last month, and that was really fun as well. Again, just to meet like traders who I've been following for the longest time.
Nice.
But it's a lot.
Yeah. Cons, the schedules that I remember when I used to do them, it's like, am I really going to be here for 12 hours? What is happening?
Yeah. And I don't drive either. Neither myself nor my husband drives, so we have to rely on public transport to get us to and from all our events. Which, I mean, we're so lucky that in London it's so easy. Like from our house, there is 3 buses that go just down the road. If I need another bus, it's like a 2-minute walk. Like,
amazing.
There's so many options. There's like 2 train stations. You know, the public transport here is so good. But when you're like, it's the end of the day for me. Like when you've done 12 hours for 2 days, and then you're pulling home your suitcase at the end of it. It's just like every step.
Can I be done, please?
Yeah, it's like I need the magic slippers. This is when I need Dorothy's magic slippers, and it's like there's no place like home.
Yeah, I just need to be home. Heels. Just get me in the bed.
I always just crawl into bed as soon as I get in. I'm just like crawl up the stairs and I'm done.
Yeah, no, there's no time for anything else. Like maybe a little bit of food if you can swing it, because con food, I don't know if it's different in London or in the UK, but convention food in the US is hot garbage. It is just like the gnarliest pizza, like the fried food coming out of a bag, like, and they're like, don't bring any food in. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't want to have a coronary today. Like, I'm gonna bring some food.
Like you look at the options and you can feel your heart like seizing up a little.
No.
It's not as bad in the UK, but it is really expensive. It's really expensive.
Well, that's the same too.
I sneak a sandwich in my handbag. I'm like, no one's gonna know.
No, how would they know? How would they know?
Who's gonna know?
So how does your wildlife stuff do at like a comic convention? I know some people are like, oh, I don't want to, it's kind of like crossing genres and they might be worried about how their stuff might do, but I don't know, it seems kind of universal.
It's really interesting. So I was so surprised at how many people came up to me and said, like, knew straight off the bat, like, some of the more obscure animals that I do.
Nice.
Like, I had this woman come up to me, and she was the nicest lady, and she just went, "Oh my gosh, you've got Vaquita stickers," and she was just like, just zoned straight in on it, and I was like, "You know what a Vaquita is?" Like,
I love it. I don't
it
know what a
doesn't.
vaquita is. Oh my gosh.
It's a very small species of porpoise. Um,
Oh,
oh, it's so
I
cute,
love that.
and I always say that, like, my business is like Pokemon, but for animals. Because not
Yes.
everyone's favorite animal is gonna be like the famous ones that you get like all the merch for, like tigers
Yeah.
and elephants. I'm like, I love all those animals too, don't get me wrong. But like my business is for the people who look for like those really obscure animals and they're like, yeah, my favorite animal is the secretary bird. Like
Yeah. Secretary birds are so scary.
they're
They will,
amazing.
they'll stomp a snake in a second. Oh my God. I love
I
them.
just like in another life I would like to think that I would be a secretary bird. Just like
I love it. But you're so right. Like sometimes you're like, you know what? I love a Hyrax. I'm
yes.
obsessed
I love
with a
Hyrax.
Hyrax. They are hysterical and angry and weird and they're so cute. I don't know.
They're
I love
so
them.
good. They're so great. I love Hyraxes. They're such great animals.
I
They're so
love
much fun.
them.
It's really interesting because yeah, I did get a few people be like, I don't know what any of these animals are.
Hmm.
And a few people, I get a lot. I mean, but it's not just at cons. I get this. I also get this at like a regular makers market. So I think
Yeah.
for me, like I'm quite used to it.
Hmm.
I will get people who will just be like, I really love bookmarks, and will just buy 5 bookmarks, and
Nice.
necessarily they don't necessarily mind what's on the bookmark so long as it's a
Hmm.
pretty design. And then I'll
Nice.
get the people who will be like, you have secretary birds, you have maned wolf, enamel pin.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just like I meet so many zookeepers. It's amazing. The
That's
amount
so
of zookeepers
cool.
I've met.
What
That's
a
like,
fun niche.
yeah, it's wild to me. It's wild to me because when I was a kid, I always really wanted to work for National Geographic,
Mm,
specifically as a photographer, because I really
hmm.
wanted to photograph whales. That was all I
I
wanted to
love
do.
that. I went through a big National Geographic photographer phase myself because
Yes.
I loved the birds and anything in a jungle. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to go to the Amazon and photograph animals in the Amazon. And
Yeah.
that's what like I
That's
was,
exactly
yeah.
it. That's exactly it. I was just like, I knew that the only way for me to get to see these animals in real life, like up close, was
Hmm.
to be a National Geographic photographer.
Right.
Like my like 7, 8 year old brain was like, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Um, and then it like went off the rails, and I went off and I did theater instead, which was like a complete like
A
turnaround,
little different.
just a little bit. And then I somehow have come like full circle to what
Yeah.
my 7, 8 year old like. Okay, I'm not seeing the animals necessarily, but like I get to draw them
I
all day.
love that. Yeah, I found a similar thing. My first big obsession, the thing I remember I really wanted to be as a kid, was a colorist at Disney because I saw a behind the scenes and I was like, someone just gets to color the cells, like that's their job.
Yes.
And there was one day where I was just working on some pins and like I collaborated with Andy, my husband, on the gnome. So he would do the designs and then I would do all the color. So I'm picking out colors and working with my palettes. And I was like, oh my God, it's happening.
Forest.
I did it. Not for Disney, but they don't even use cells anymore. Like I'm sure it's
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
very different. But I was like, oh, it happened.
Yeah, it's I find it so funny like how so many people have the same sort of story, like when they find something that they're so passionate about and they end up doing something that's like speaks to them so much, it actually is what
Yeah.
they're like young child version of them wanted to be when
I
they grew
love
up.
it.
I think it's so great.
It's so cool. And like it might not be exactly what you thought it would turn out to be because life is bonkers.
Life be lifing.
But like yes, but like the essence of it is still like, your little kid self would be so proud of you.
Oh my gosh, my little kid self would be like over the moon,
I
and
love it.
it would be so wild to them. Also, because like I
Yeah.
used to collect enamel pins when I was a kid.
I
Like
love
it's
it. I
just like
did
all the
yeah.
little things, you know. All I
Yes.
think it was such a thing to do when you were a
Yeah.
child in like the
Yeah.
90s and early 2000s. Like you would
Yeah.
collect enamel pins and
Yeah, mine
talk
started with
about it.
Olympic pins. It was
Yeah,
Olympic pins. Yeah. It
yeah.
was like, this is cool. More of these. So I would love to know more of like the origin of your shop because I know you've gone through some different iterations as I have. Like
Oh yeah.
shops started out very drastically to how it ended up, but I would love to know a little bit more kind of your journey into this kind of space that your little kid self would
I think
love.
to know that I kind of have to roll back a little bit further. So I came to London to go to drama school.
Mhm.
So I didn't go to college. After I finished high school, I moved to London at 18 and I went to drama school instead.
So
Um,
cool.
it's like a vocational school for people who
Yeah.
want to work in theater arts and stuff like that. And so I did a lot of backstage stuff. And so with that, I also was like making papier mache props and various
So cool.
bits and pieces. Yeah, and
So
so
cool.
like in rehearsal rooms, they would go, okay, we're going to need like a pair of binoculars for this scene. We're going to need to source a pair of binoculars. But for now, can someone like make us something to use? And I'd be like, 2 toilet rolls and some gaffer tape. Here you go.
Yes. Yes.
So I think I always was like that little bit creative anyways. Like I always had that in me. Um,
Yeah.
and then I worked in theater for a really long time. I worked in theater for 12 years.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it was a really, really long time. I traveled up and down the country doing it as well. I did a couple of
Nice.
tours, and that was super fun. I worked in the West End, and I did some like world premiere stuff. That was like,
That's so awesome.
it was such a great time. It was such a
Yeah.
great time. The industry is so much fun.
Yeah.
But I kind of like hit the ceiling of where I could
Mhm.
go with like what I was passionate about, and
Mhm.
then there was a whole lot of, like, as always, office politics, like lots of things going on behind the scenes
Mhm.
that I was like, I'm not fully happy here anymore.
Yeah.
And so I decided, with the help of my husband, I didn't just like drop it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like, by the way, I quit my
Bye.
job today.
Yeah.
um, but we were like, why don't we stop like and reassess what's going to happen and reassess what I want to do with my life? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll do that. I was in my early 30s, so I was like, that's fine. I've still got lots and lots of time to figure out what I want to do.
Yeah.
And in that time, after I quit my last theater management job, I picked up a set of watercolor paints. And I was like,
And
as the elder millennial in me couldn't stop myself from starting an Instagram account for my
as we
new
do.
for
As
my
we
new
do.
hobby. So I did that, and then just like again, it was like a lot of old things that I had done before. I decided to pick up embroidery.
Mhm.
And then I got a lot of people being like, "Oh my god, I really love your embroidery. Can I buy it?" And I was like, "Okay, sure, why not?"
Yeah.
And then I opened an Etsy shop. Like I always say I kind of fell into it because
Mhm.
I never started it with like a clear expectation of like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But every time I've just kind of like, someone's gone, well, why don't you do this? Or can you do this? And I've been like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And then I just keep rolling.
I
I just
love
keep
it.
like they start the
Yeah.
domino effect and I just keep going on.
Yeah.
Um, so I started with embroidery, and then people were saying, can I do you do greeting cards? And I was like, I don't, but I can.
Mhm.
And so I did greeting cards, and then people said, oh, do you do stickers? And I said, well, no, but give me a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks later, I had stickers. And then I sort of did a little bit of like a divert. Um, and did like some screen printing along the way. But really, when I did the embroidery, I did the 100-day project.
Nice.
The one and only time I've ever been successful at doing the entire 100 day.
Yeah, I've never completed it, but I
I've
did do
never.
drawings a day for a few years, so I count that as a win. But
Oh, 100%. 100%. Those challenges are so hard because once you
yeah,
start, you feel obligated to continue on, but then
oh
just
yeah,
time, you underestimate how much time it takes.
every time I underestimate.
And so I decided I was going to embroider 100 endangered animals.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, oh, there'll be like just about 100 endangered animals. And I decided I was going to make a list. And I spent 4 days making lists.
Oh my God.
And I was like, and I think for me, like the key moment was when I found out that giraffes were endangered. And it was 2017, 2018. And I was like, I'm pretty cluey with like what endangered animals there are. Like, I'm an animal nerd. I go to the zoo a lot as an adult.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I follow WWF and I donate and I support penguins and all these things. And I was like, how did I never know that giraffes were endangered? And
I
then
didn't know.
exactly, right? And I was like, well, if I don't know, then other people won't know.
Yeah.
And if I don't know, then other people don't know, then everyone should know.
Yeah.
Because by this point, I think we had already lost like a couple of species that had been like big in the news. And I was like, somebody needs to be talking about this.
Yeah.
I guess that's gonna be me.
Yeah. Because why not you? You know?
And like, yeah. And so I come from it from a very I always say I come from it from a very non-scientific basis. Like I come from it purely from a passion for animals.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time that Mr. H, my husband, and I went to Australia for him to meet my family. And I said to him, we went for like 2 weeks on holiday. And I said to him, okay, on this day, we're going to go to the zoo. And he said, oh, why are we going to go to the zoo? And I said, because I always go to the zoo.
Yeah.
I always go.
Like...
Every single trip I've ever gone with my family, I've taken a day to go to the zoo and I've taken a day to go to the aquarium. And I was like, and I ain't going to break that tradition now.
No. And how fun to be able to show him that, because I'm sure that the Australia Zoo, or whichever zoo you go to there, has like so many animals that we would never see in, local zoos.
Just so, I always find it so interesting, like the different animals that you see. And then like, conversely, I find it really weird when I go to British zoos and I see Australian animals. I'm like, I'm not expecting it.
Yeah.
Like when I go when I go to the zoo and like the first thing I see are wallabies and I'm like, hold up, where am I?
That's funny. Did he love it though?
Oh my gosh. Like, and so we have continued the tradition to this day.
Oh.
He's gone down with me to Australia now about 5-6 times. And every single time he's like, what day are we going to the zoo?
Yeah, so he looks forward to it too. I bet the aquarium is amazing there too. Oh my gosh.
It's so good. I just have so many like core memories from those places that now when I look again, it goes back to what we were saying before about like how you end up doing what your child self wanted to do. I remember so vividly going to the zoo or going to the aquarium and seeing this like special exhibit on sawfish that they had there one time.
Yeah.
And it's such a core memory for me, but nobody else in my family, like, they remember, like, oh yeah, we went to this exhibit. I can tell you like, what the pegs look like, what the animals look like, what they were doing when we were there. Like, it was such a huge impact on me.
That's awesome. Changed your brain chemistry.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Like, there's the little core memory in there that's like, brings me joy.
That so much. And now you do, like, I love following your Instagram because whenever you have a different, because you have like kind of monthly pins.
Yeah.
And it's always a different animal. And you have so many, like, go to Tasha's website and just look at all these animals that you have probably never heard of. And I'm like, well, what is that guy? Let me learn about her. Like, so cool. And I do get very, very proud when I know. I'm like, I know that one. I know all about it.
I love that. I love that people like have collections of my pins and they're like, oh, I need to collect that one. Yeah. I'm like, what do you do? Like,
Yes,
let's
you do,
help save the
please.
animals. I always try really hard as well, like something that I've never really sort of pointed out, but like whenever I donate to, because so every sale 10% of everything goes to wildlife conservation.
Love
Because
it.
if it impacted me so much as a kid, I feel like I want to give it back to like the next generation, because I don't want the next generation of artists to not be able to see the animals
Yeah.
I saw in the zoo, you know? Because
Yeah.
that's how you get
Yeah.
the love for it. So I always try and pick the like a project which is going to save the animal or one of the animals I've just featured recently. So like we
Hmm.
just recently donated to save a patch of rainforest in Argentina that
Cool.
specifically is going to help save giant anteaters. And it's just like,
I love that. I love a giant anteater. I could
oh my
sit there
God.
and watch that. They're such a strange, cool, specific animal. Like, you evolved into this, and I just want to watch them walk around.
I always
So cool.
find whenever I go to the zoos or the aquariums that like the animals are so much bigger than you think they are. Like the first
Yeah.
time I saw a giant anteater, I was like, this is massive. What? How have we not, been able to
Yeah.
save this giant animal?
Right? It's so true. That's like, I love a cassowary.
Yeah,
And Andy, my husband, loves a cassowary. He's like, that's just a dinosaur that we get to look at,
yeah.
And we could just stand there and watch them the whole time. But also, like, I'm not trying to get in your space, cassowary. Don't yell at me, Like, there's
I
a
always
respect there.
I love cassowaries so much, but yeah, I need that like that physical barrier just to feel safe.
I'm like, I do know that you can jump. I'm sure they've taken that into account, but those kicking legs,
I know,
I'm your
I
friend.
know. I am friend, not food.
Yes, exactly.
I was so lucky to see cassowaries when I went to Australia last time at the zoo, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't you always think to yourself, I would definitely notice this animal in the rainforest. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
giant bird. It's okay, it's black, but it's got like bright blue and bright
Yeah.
red, and it's got like these big stompy legs. Like there's no way that I'm gonna think that this is a tree. And the
Mm-hmm.
instant that they go back into like their bit of in the enclosure, which is like for their habitat, I lose sight of that immediately, and I'm like,
Crazy.
how?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I love, like, sometimes you're like, why can't I see the animal? Where is it? And then you see it, and it's like so much closer than you think, and you go, I would not have survived
Yeah,
in in the jungle. No, it wouldn't have been me. So
I
good.
always think that when I see crocodiles. Crocodiles are like one of the
Yes.
few animals that like properly scare me. I love them, but
Hmm.
I
I'd
need
like
them to,
dinosaur.
yeah. But I've seen them like covered in the mud, like just their eyes sticking up over the murky water, and I've spent like a good 10 minutes like trying to find it before I realized where it was, and I was like, I would have been
Yeah.
unalived.
Yes, I would have been lunch. Thank you. I would have been the
Yeah.
food, not the friend. Oh my gosh. Well, I love all the conservation work that you do. I know you have a big partnership right now because you're working like for the whole year. You're donating to one specific
Yes,
place.
so I worked with Rainforest Trust UK before. So the UK branch is just specifically Rainforest Trust UK because of the fundraising laws that we have here,
Hmm.
but they work all across the world. So they work with Rainforest Trust, the sort of umbrella parent company, as well as with like indigenous local groups and organizations that are
Cool.
saving and conserving not just animals, but also habitat across the world, which is so important
Nice. Yeah.
because if we save 5 acres of rainforest, that's not just saving like the jaguars, but it's also saving all the beetles and frogs and birds and butterflies and
Yeah.
everything that calls that 5 acres home or that would like
Yeah.
pass through it. So it's so important to, I think, in conservation as well, not just talk about the animals, but like where they live and how we can help
Hmm.
save those areas because that will then in turn save more animals.
Yeah. I love that.
Pretty critical.
It's so hard to see because, like, when we lived in Austin, we lived close to a major road, but there was this big patch of trees, just like untouched little forest between our apartments and the road, right? And it was awesome. There was this giant owl. I don't know what it was, but he would show up and it was magical. And there were just all kinds of animals that lived there.
Yeah.
And they cleared it all out, put in a dentist office, and it's fine. They put in a vet office, and I'm like, you guys, the irony. And like, we never saw the owl again. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there's, I know people aren't huge fans of squirrels and we didn't have a ton of crazy wildlife there, but I mean, that was their little home.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like I think London is so green that I
Mm-hmm.
forget sometimes like how lucky I am to have so much wildlife on my doorstep.
Yeah.
Like we have frogs out in the back garden. Um,
Love it.
we have like 6, 7 different types of residential birds that visit us like every day, plus an additional like 8 or 9 different species
Oh,
that
I
like
love
fly
it.
past on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I will on a regular basis see like magpies and seagulls and squirrels. I saw squirrels today, foxes,
Oh, the
all of that.
foxes are so cool in London.
They're so like slightly terrify me because they have
Yeah.
no fear. They have zero fear. They're just like trotting down the road in the middle of the night. They're like, if you're there, I'm just gonna walk straight past you. And I'm like, you're a
Okay.
fox.
Okay. Ooh, carry on. That's amazing. Yeah, that was a huge difference when we moved because I think it's probably just, I mean, London is a huge city and you still have nature, but Austin, where we were in particular, we had some mockingbirds, we had, a handful of birds, which I love my mockingbirds, and some squirrels, but it was all like just really developed and there wasn't a lot. And then we moved here and we're just in the middle of all of these trees. I just put some new feeders outside. Oh my gosh, the birds that we
Oh my
get
goodness.
now, they just flock to it. I'm like yelling at the squirrels to get off my bird feeders but we have chipmunks and red squirrels and black squirrels and gray squirrels and just so many different birds. I saw a bald eagle yesterday just driving in my community. I was like, what is this? It's so cool.
It's
It's
it's so good, isn't it? And then
yeah.
to go back to what you were saying, so I've worked with Rainforest Trust UK for such a long
Yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
and they sort of let me know that they were going to be leaving a platform that I was using to do my donations.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just about to, I try and fundraise for them sort of every 6-ish months. And I was sort of planning my next time I was going to fundraise for them. And they said, well, if you do want to fundraise for us again, because we know, they were so kind. They were like, we know that you usually don't fundraise for us for a long period of time, but if you wanted to, we can do like a 2-month contract. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, what's your average contract? And they said 12 months. And I was like, well, I can do 12 months. Um, so
That's awesome.
every quarter, all the money in the fundraising pot gets donated, and it gets donated
Mm-hmm.
to a different project. I love fundraising for them because they do so many different projects.
Cool.
So like we've helped save, like I said before, giant anteaters, but also jaguars, but also like helped wildlife corridors in Mexico and helped save
Awesome.
ancient rainforests in Vietnam and like all across the world.
What? That's
I've got
amazing.
like, you can just see up there.
Yeah.
That's one of my certificates from them.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
I really want to do as much good as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the charities here focus on like one very specific thing, like maybe a specific
Mm-hmm.
animal or a specific region. But what I love about Rainforest Trust UK is that they give the money to where it needs it the most urgently. And they also just have like a generalized urgent fund so that if there's not any projects that are like super urgent at the time, the money will go into a fund and get saved until there's like an emergency project, like
Yeah.
something
Like
happens in the
wildfires
Amazon.
and yeah.
Exactly, like the Australian wildfires or the California wildfires or anything like that, so that they've got already like a bit of money that they can immediately send to help that particular
That's
emergency.
awesome. And so necessary because those things are so devastating
Yeah.
to everyone
And
now. It's
I mean, obviously, with like the pandemic, everything
mhm.
changed for everybody.
Yeah.
But one of the things that happened was that we all got a little bit poorer. Let's be
Mm.
honest.
Yeah.
my
To be
husband,
honest.
my husband was put on furlough for the better part of a year,
Yeah.
So that was a really like tricky time for us
Hmm.
financially to deal with.
Yeah.
And so what a lot of these charities found is that people were not able to give money anymore because they
Hmm.
financially couldn't afford it. And
Yeah.
they had to cancel all of like their events, like their fundraising balls and galas and auctions and
Hmm.
whatever, because of COVID. So then all of a sudden their revenue to help their conservation projects went down drastically.
Yeah.
Um, so it really sort of came down to like me and people like me who are like, we're going to fundraise through our small business. That
Yeah.
like helped keep a lot of these projects going.
It speaks a lot to the community that you guys have grown around these charities, because it's true when everyone's feeling the pinch, where do you have to make a lot of really hard decisions, but that doesn't mean that the problems that exist go away, so
Exactly. Exactly.
you have to do what you can, and I think that's amazing that you're
And
able to
I
do
do not
that.
blame a single person for having to stop any of their donations or anything like that. It was such a tricky time. I mean, it still is in the UK.
Yeah.
The cost of living here is astronomical.
Yeah.
And people can't afford to give to charity. But if you need to buy a Christmas present and you
Mhm.
can also give to charity at the same time, I think that's a really nice, like, little additional
Yeah.
bonus. But
Yeah.
like you're not just helping a small business, but you're also doing something for, this sort
Yeah.
of world problem. Um,
Yeah. And I think now it's really important. And I feel like people are starting to get a little bit more aware of where their money is going, especially after the elections in the United States
yeah,
recently. I
yeah,
think people are being a lot more intentional with not feeding the pockets of billionaires and trying their hardest to shop small. At least I know I am. And if we can peer pressure anyone else on the internet to do that, if it's possible, please
right, you
do.
can.
It's like go to bookshop.org instead of Amazon and like places like that. Even though
I love
also
them.
there are a lot of shops on, or a lot of authors on Amazon that can't access a lot of stuff without Amazon. So small authors of
Yeah,
color have a hard time getting getting exposure. So it's so hard. We do our best. We do
we
our
do our best,
best.
and that's the thing. We can only do our best, and if
Yeah.
the best is buying a sticker from me and
Hmm.
knowing that 30 pence of that sticker is going to go towards wildlife conservation, I'm just so pleased that you
Yeah.
know that I can do
Yeah.
that for other people as well. I just think that it like brings a little bit of peace of mind to some people. So
Yes. Yeah. I really like knowing if I'm gonna spend money, because everything is expensive. I
yeah,
want to know that it's going to something worthwhile and going to a business that needs it, and especially with small businesses nowadays. It's more fun to buy from small businesses. They're cooler anyway. They have different
exactly,
ideas. And
exactly.
like, where else are you going to find like Secretary Bird merch? I
And Jeff
mean,
Bezos is not going to write you a personalized thank you note.
he
Let's put it,
sure isn't.
so
I'll tell you that.
like for that unboxing, for that experience, small
Yes.
businesses is always better. Always.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Keep it in the community. Keep it with people who actually care what's going on in the world. Okay, so you are gearing up for holiday season. I'm not
Yeah.
sure when this is going to air, but I would love to know where you're going to be, because you've been doing a ton of in-person stuff this year. How's that been?
Yeah, I love doing in-person markets. I love
Yeah.
meeting people and getting to chat animals and getting to chat shop and just having that. Also, as a small business, it can be so isolating sometimes working
Yeah.
as a small biz. You're working at home on your own, day in, day out. It's just nice to go. I sometimes treat it as like my social time. Like, this is when I'm gonna go see my friends. Like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
working. I'm working. But in reality, I'm gonna go chat to my pal.
Exactly.
For like two
That's all
hours.
yes. Especially if you can table near your friend. Like,
Oh
mm,
my goodness.
that's always,
If I table near my friends, that's like that's over. That's all
it's,
over.
it's perfect. Because then you're like selling each other stuff too.
Oh my gosh,
That's,
always. And you're always a better seller of someone else's stuff than your own.
yes,
Like
100%.
I don't know, the way that we hype each other up, we can never hype ourselves up the same way. There's just
No.
something about us that's just
No.
like, it can't do it.
I think that's a universal thing,
Oh
to
yeah,
be
I think
honest.
so. So I'm doing ComCon London winter, which is the 16th and 17th of November. And it's also got YALC, which is connected to it, which is the Young Adult Fiction Convention.
Oh,
Something like, it's a book convention, basically.
awesome.
I know, and you know me, I love my reading, so
I love it. I
I will
love seeing
be
what you read too. I take note. That sounds good.
I will be wandering around the book side of the con for
That'd be
sure.
awesome.
For
Well, I
sure.
hope they make it over and get some good bookmarks and,
Oh, I hope
you
so.
know.
And then I've got one weekend off, and then I will be tabling with a makers group called Crafty Fox. They organize a lot of markets in London, and they are going to be doing an event at the British Library, which is very exciting.
So cool.
I know, it's such a great venue. I did it last year and it was so amazing. The people were so lovely. And again, books and animals are really what my life is all about.
I love it. I love it. I'm into it. This is why we're friends.
And then I'll be tabling at the Illustrators Fair, which is purely illustrators. And I think it's 110 illustrators all in one place. I've been doing it for a few years now. It's one of my favorite events of the entire season. It's so incredible seeing what other people are drawing. And there's live drawing demonstrations, and everyone is basically scribbling in a sketchbook behind their stall. So everyone's got materials, and you're just sketching away and chatting to people, and it's so cool. And
that sounds so fun.
Again, I have friends who I only see at that event. Once a year we catch up at the Christmas Illustrators Fair.
That is so fun. What a cool niche market to be a part of.
Interesting seeing the different things, the different types of illustration you can get, or what you can use illustration for. There's one of my friends who's going to be there, and he makes little paper cut toys. They're not origami, but they're paper cut, but they move about like little puppets. And it fascinates me. And he's always demonstrating behind his stall how different things move, and I just watch him all the time. I'm just absolutely fascinated by how he comes up with these ideas of
so cool,
just bits of paper and folded, and then all of a sudden it becomes Santa Claus, and it's
amazing,
and it waves at you, and I'm like, how?
You're like the kid sitting there waiting to try and figure it out. What are you doing?
I really am. And then there's always so many children's book illustrators there,
awesome.
which is incredible. And I always find so much art when I'm there. I'm starting to run out of space on my walls to put art.
That's a good problem.
Moving into stickers, but I just know I'm going to end up spending so much money on stickers.
Yeah. It's really funny when you you go to a show and you make all your money and you're like, I'm doing so well. And then the last day you're like, I'm just going to take a turn around the thing. And then there it all goes.
So quickly. I remember at an event a couple of years back, and somebody paid me with a £5 note, and it had a highlighter mark on it where somebody had checked to make sure it was real in the past. It was a bright pink highlighter. Still good, still fine. I went and I bought something from my friend with it. And then they went and bought something else with that £5 note. And then they went and bought something else with that £5 note. And then it was have you seen the Bluey episode where they are going around with their $5 and they deciding what to buy, and then you see how that $5 moves around the community? It was exactly like that episode, up until the point where it sort of ended up back close-ish to where I was, and somebody was like, oh look, I've highlighted this £5 note, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Wait a minute.
3 hours later, this note has turned back up next to my tab.
But you know what? That's on community, supporting community is what 100%. That is. I
100%.
love it.
So it's that, I mean, really, all we could have done is just gone around and traded stickers. And it would have been faster.
Right. I'm all about a barter. I
I
loved
love a
doing a
trade.
trade. Yeah.
I love an artist trade. I did it at the I don't get to do it so much on the 1-day events that I do just because there's not enough
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But when I did the 3-day con over the summer, on the last day, because it was a Sunday and it was sort of everyone was like filtering
Yeah.
out towards the end of the day,
Yeah.
and we just kind of went, right, who's trading? And
Yeah.
we just went all around like trading,
I
like,
love
oh,
it.
so and so's got red panda pins. Oh, I really want this sticker from this particular TV series. Okay, we'll do a swap.
Yeah.
And I came away with so much stuff.
It's the best. It's the best. I think it's so fun.
It
So
was
you have
so
your
much.
illustrators fair. Is that the last show of the year for
And then,
you?
so then after that, I've got my big sort of makers market, which is again with Crafty Fox. And it's that's again, it's going to be I think over 100 different small businesses.
Mm,
And that's I always close out my year with that one. That's just
yeah.
like a huge like Christmas market on steroids.
That's my kind of
Because there's
Christmas market.
so many people to see, and where I do a lot of my events, there happens to be two like weekly markets that are in the two venues right next to each other. So
Mm,
it's just this huge like pedestrianized area of like you walk out of one market into another, out of that market into another.
amazing.
People spend the whole day there. It's incredible. There's like food and drinks in one of them, and then you get like music in another one, and it's sort of, and I'm in the one in the middle, so it all kind of filters through. So
Yeah. Oh my
it's so much
gosh.
fun. Yeah.
I want to go.
That's so that will be the middle of December.
Mhm.
And then that's me for the year. That's me for the
Nice.
year.
And do you shut down? I know a lot of people will do the like, you know what, we're closing up. You can, because I would close up shop, but I would say like you can buy stuff if you want to, but it's not going to get shipped until after the new year.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'm also traveling to go see my family in January.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
so the time after my final event this year, I've only got then about 4 weeks before I
Mm,
then fly to Australia, and
mm,
so I'm going to spend that time just getting my stuff together, doing laundry, packing.
yeah.
I've got a list from my cousins of like some things that they would like me to get for them that they can't get there. So like I'll do a little bit of shopping for them, and then just by the time I've done, so Mr. H, my husband, still works in theater, so our
Mhm,
Christmas is just Christmas Day. We don't
mhm.
get. He's working. I think this year he's working both Christmas Eve and Boxing Day.
Right.
Um, yeah, which is really standard for
Yeah.
theater. So
Yeah.
we're super used to it.
Yeah.
So we'll have Christmas Day together at home, and then he'll go straight back to work, and then I'll probably be designing stuff for 2025.
Oh my gosh. 2025 designs. It's coming. It's so soon.
I already
It
have
feels
3
wild.
in my office.
I believe you. I believe you. And I'm excited to see what they are. My gosh. So how do you come up with your list of like animals to do? Do you just have your running tally of your endangered species and go, you're next?
No, it's very much whatever I am watching, and that
Mm,
I get a little bit hyperfixated on.
yeah. Follow the energy.
Whatever I get really hyperfixated on, I will then be like, that's the animal I'm gonna draw.
Yeah. I love that.
Also because then it lets me be a little bit sort of timely with my designs. I mean, I
Mm,
design quite far out, so I've already
yeah.
got quarter 1 pins in my office,
Amazing.
and I've got sketches for quarter 2 done already. So
Yes.
I'm essentially going to start working on quarter 3 really really soon, which is
I love it. Does it
terrifying.
feel It's terrifying, but also does it feel good to know that you've got these things planned and you don't have to like
I think I'm
work up
such
to
a
the wire?
planner anyways,
Yeah.
that I need this structure to keep me on track, because I will also go completely off the rails and decide
Oh,
that in January that I really want to make, I don't know, sticker sheets that come with glow in the dark that like are scratch and sniff or something like that. And I will quite easily spend a month researching a new product,
We are the same person.
which will then probably not come to fruition, but I will spend a month researching.
Mm-hmm.
So I really need to have that structure and be ahead of the game so that I know that, like, okay, whatever happens, I know I've got my pins for the month sorted and I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it. Because, like, my
Yeah.
big fear is letting people down. And I
Mm-hmm.
know realistically, the only person who's going to know that I've not launched a pin that month is going to be me.
It's you.
In my
Yeah.
brain, I'm like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, because what about all my amazing regular customers who buy from me every single month? And they're
Yeah.
gonna notice I'm not there, and I can't
They're
let them
gonna
down.
know. Can I tell you something? I ran a pin club for years and years, right? And then when we realized we were going to move, shut it down, had the last year, I talked about it on Instagram. I sent multiple emails, like over the months. This is when it's going to end. This is your last thing. No one, no, you're not going to be charged. Like constantly, I felt like I was only talking about this. And then in like April or something, the next year, someone was like, I haven't gotten my pins, my monthly pins. What's going on? And I
For
was
like a
like,
while.
what? I'm like, you haven't been charged and it's been months. So yeah, no
I've
one's.
had the same thing happen to me when I stopped doing the embroidery, and I was like, I did a massive sale on all my embroidery pieces, and I was like, I'm not going to be doing the embroidery anymore because my heart was no longer in it.
Yeah.
This business for me ultimately is like 100% my passion. If
Yeah.
I decide one day that I no longer make enamel pins, I will do the same thing that I did with the embroidery and just like
Yeah.
mass discount everything. It's not going to happen, I don't think, because we're
Hmm.
now going into year 4, going pretty strong.
Love it.
But I remember I spoke about it for 2 months. 2 months, I was like, this is going to be your last day. Everything's on sale. This is what's available. And then I got an email from a customer who had done custom order before,
Mhm.
like 2 years later.
Oh my God.
And she was so sweet. And she said, I've just been on your Etsy shop and I noticed that you're no longer doing embroidery, but I was wondering if you can do this for me. And I had to be like, I'm so sorry. I no longer have any of the materials to do this, and it's no longer
Yeah.
something that I do. And I was really honest with her. She was a lovely, like, repeat customer of mine before.
Hmm.
And I said to her, like, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be charging what I had charged you before.
Yeah.
Like, this is now 2 years on, a
Yeah.
lot of things change,
Yeah.
I've grown in the business and everything. And I gave her a list of places that she could go that did the same sort of
So
embroidery
nice.
that she
Yeah.
wanted. And she was so sweet. She came back to me and she went, yeah, but I want you to do it. I was like, oh, sweet sugar pie. That's not going to happen, darling.
No, no, I'm so sorry.
I,
But you
I,
kind of answered the question yourself.
I know. And see, this is what happens, because then I'm like, oh my God, I've let someone down.
No, no, you shouldn't let anyone
No,
down.
I
You
know.
set your boundaries.
No,
You
I
set your
know.
boundaries, and
I
that's
know.
fine.
She
Yeah.
was very understanding and very sweet about it. But I was just
Good.
like, oh
It
my
is
God.
wild. It is wild. I feel like that's a lesson for people when they think like, oh, I'm being annoying online. Oh, I'm saying this too much. No, 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 no. No, you're not. I promise you're not. You are literally the only person who knows that you are saying this so
Yeah.
much. Like you and like your one best friend that's always like hyping you up in the comments.
And
And like
even,
we don't care.
let's be honest, they're also a small business owner and they've got their own list of stuff that they've got on their mind, and they're probably going to forget too.
Yes. It's so true. It's so true.
I love my small business besties, but I know that they've got their own stuff going on. And
That is absolutely the truth. Oh my gosh. Especially now. It's like, I know business has been so hard this year for folks. And I know a lot of people are leaning more into wholesale. And then there's still like a lot of people are going back into markets, folks that like might not have done that for a while or are heading back out on the road. And I think it's great to be out in the community again because even when you have a bad show, like you're still there, you're the face of it. You're like, you never really know what's going to come from
Yeah.
like a show.
I always say, and it's taken me a really long time to realize this as well. And so it's very much like people are going to hear what I say and they're going to say, oh, but it's so easy to say it. But it's took me a really long time for me to like internalize this. What comes from a show isn't just the sales on the day.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much else that can come. I've had commissions come from shows. I've had collaborations come from shows.
Yeah.
Last Christmas, I had a lovely, just the most adorable couple in the world who bought like 6 enamel pins. They were so excited. They, and it was for them. They were very clear to me. They were like, "These
Yes.
are for us. These are our presents to ourselves." And I was like, "Yes." I'm a big believer in treating yourself to something every year because you deserve it.
Truly. Yes.
And and then about 10 days later, they made another order on my website. And they wrote in the order box, "We love your pins so much that we're going to give the ones that we bought at the market away as Christmas presents. So we're now repurchasing."
Oh, amazing. See?
So sometimes they have to go away and they have to think about it, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're with the person who they want to buy something for and they're going to
Yeah.
take down your details to buy something later on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, truly, there's no way of ever fully knowing what's in somebody else's mind when they're browsing your store.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just think, you know, it doesn't, I mean, we've all been there. On my first ever market, I sold one
Mm-hmm.
card in, I think it was 8 hours.
Yeah.
And I was devastated,
Yeah.
absolutely devastated.
Yeah.
But then from that, I learned so much about
Mm-hmm.
how to set up my stall, how to interact,
Yeah.
how, you know, my card readers worked, you know,
Yes.
all these little things that I've then taken
Yeah.
to the next event and to the next
Yeah.
event and to the next event.
Yeah.
Um,
And you
and
just
so I'm
learn more and more
exactly, and that's why I
every
love
time you
doing
table.
events, in-person events so much, is because it's so much more than just the money that you obviously you want to break even.
Yeah.
But I always say if I break even on the stand fee, then I'm happy. Anything over
Yeah.
that is a bonus because
Mm-hmm.
also I would have spent that money on marketing anyways
Yeah.
as a small business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good just marketing opportunity as well. And I feel like
Yeah.
I've met so many great friends and like you just get to be a part of your community that way. And yeah. And it's hard because when you have a bunch of like crappy shows and things like that. But I really feel like you do learn, and there's so many resources out there now
Yeah.
for younger people getting started. Like, I feel like people are making all their custom booths and like custom cut stuff, and they've got acrylic things. And I'm like, baby, we were piecing together things with like jewelry displays and like bed sheets like when I was your age. I feel like this like crotchety old woman. Like, are you kidding me? We
I
didn't have
know.
social media when I started.
I found this woman on TikTok and she was sharing things that you can buy in IKEA for your craft table. For your and she was like, you can buy this and use it for this. You can buy this and it folds down flat and it can be put in a suitcase, but don't buy
Amazing.
this because it doesn't and I was like, where was this? The amount of money I spent on display stuff, which was completely useless.
Yes.
Completely useless because I
Yes.
didn't know until it arrived what it was
Mm-hmm.
really going to look like. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this would have been so useful for me.
I know. And just the portable nature of things now. I'm
Yeah.
like, the way I carded, even like after having pins, I had these big acrylic displays to put pins in. They did not fold down. They were like humongous. And I'm taking up my whole car with these huge things. Like, what am I doing?
I think it's wild. It's wild how how far, but also I think it's a great testament to like how much people value small businesses now.
Yeah,
You know, that
absolutely.
there's all these markets and all these opportunities that we can like
Yeah,
go to, and there's like you said, there's all these resources that we can like
yeah,
draw upon. And
yeah.
I mean, my small business is only just 7 this year. So
That's
I've not
huge,
even been
though.
doing it for like, I know. I'm on one hand, I'm like, I've not been doing it for this long. And on the other hand, I'm like, I've been doing this for 7 years. This is actually the
Yeah.
longest job I've ever had.
Yeah, right? Like, and you think about it, like, none of my 9 to 5, or like corporate jobs or anything will hold a candle to
Yeah.
my shop, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
But like, and I'm like, even just 7 years ago, the resources that were out there were
Yeah.
not anywhere near what you can have today.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of sticker girlies
Absolutely.
who are making their planner stickers at home during the pandemic, who then started this like thriving small business and are sharing. Well, I had no idea that I could even make stickers at home when I first started selling
Yeah.
stickers. That wasn't even a thought that
Yeah.
occurred to me.
Yeah. Well, the technology truly at that time, when people had crickets that like I could never figure out a cricket. I'm sorry, I just couldn't. It made me so angry immediately. I had one and I couldn't do it. Um, but yeah, they've grown leaps and bounds, and now people can have heat presses in their home, and like there's so much that you can just do at home without even messing with
The one that I've seen
manufacturers too.
recently is a tabletop laser cutter, and I'm just like,
Yes,
how, how?
yes,
It's
yes.
amazing. It just,
Oh,
oh,
look, I talked about the Glowforge with Jessica from Tiny Deer Studio just a few days ago, and I was like, help us go down this rabbit hole, because every time we talk in my group, we're like, everyone's just kind of floating around it. And we're like, maybe
one day.
someday.
We always say that when we win the lottery, I'll build a little studio out in our garden, and then I'll be able to have all the gadgetry that I want in there.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I
That's the
think that's,
plan.
yes, I love that. That's an amazing goal. Tosh, it has been so good to talk to you. Thank you so much for
Thank
taking the
you.
time during your incredibly busy Christmas season to chat with me. I
Thank you
appreciate you
so much
so
for
much.
having me. I've had such a good
Yeah,
time.
of course. Is there anything that you want folks to definitely know about before we go?
I think we've covered quite a lot of things. If you are
Yeah.
interested in endangered or unusual animals, come swing on by and say hello. And I've always got new things coming out and new animals to talk about. And if you see any unusual, endangered, interesting animal reels, please send them my way. I cannot get enough of them.
Yes. I do that sometimes. I'm like, this is so weird, and she hasn't liked it yet, so I can send it to her. I'm the first.
Yay!
Because sometimes I look and I'm like, oh, I gotta send that to Tosh. Oh, she already saw it. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. You're fantastic, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season
Thank
and
you.
trip in January. Yay! Bye, friend.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. I know we missed the window for publishing before Tasha's Christmas season was all done, but be sure to check out hatchlingmakes.com and Hatchling Makes on Instagram so you can follow everything she's up to now and everything that she's doing in the new year. She is prepared. I love to see it. Be sure to take a minute to hop over to Apple Podcasts. I would love a rating if you have just a second. It's supposed to be really helpful. I don't know. That's what they say. All the other podcasts I listen to say that. So I'll jump on the bandwagon. If you want to see the video, be sure to go to YouTube. If you're on YouTube and just want to listen, hop over to whatever podcast service you listen to. I'm there. And yeah, be sure to check out me at the Becky Helms on Instagram or beckyhelms.com. Since the next 2 Tuesdays are actually Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I will be doing some mini episodes, just a couple solo ones real quick. So hopefully that'll be fun. I just need to slow it down for the holidays. My son's going to be out of school and I've got to get presents out in the mail and all that good stuff. So I'm going to try and take it easy. But I wanted to have a little something for you because I really appreciate you guys supporting this project that I started in November, and yeah, so we'll continue with more interviews in the new year. We've got some really good ones coming up, and I'm so excited to share them with you. But yeah, until then, I will see you next week.